The women had been arranged in a line on the raised wooden platform like wares at a meat market, where unmated wolves came when all other options had expired. When they were deemed too old, too scarred, or too disgraced to find a proper mate. And then there was me, Aurelia Thorne. I stood apart, shrouded completely in a heavy cloak. If I wasn't chosen today, my father would be legally permitted to sell me into slavery. The colossal iron doors of the hall violently burst open. Every conversation died mid-word. An alpha presence rolled through the room like a tidal wave of pure, suffocating ice. The Alpha King Valerius of the Northern Wastes walked into the hall. He was a lethal masterpiece. His silver gray eyes were clear, sharp, and absolutely merciless.
Continue.
He began walking toward the platform, the crowd parting before him like the Red Sea. His heavy booted footsteps stopped at the weeping woman. A long pause, until his boots stopped directly in front of me. My breath caught in my throat. The silence stretched so tightly, I thought the room might shatter. No one dared to breathe.
I will take her.
It took a full 10 seconds of utter chaos erupting in the hall before I realized he meant me. Through the small window of the royal carriage, I watched the northern palace rising in the distance. Its gray stone towers pierced the pale autumn sky like jagged teeth. Despite the absolute terror coiling in my chest, a strange, treacherous emotion bloomed beneath it. Relief. I could still smell the desperation of that auction hall. If the king hadn't intervened, my father would have sold me. I took the guard's hand, my boots hitting the cobblestones. The palace loomed above me, overwhelmingly grand. I followed the guard through endless corridors. Servants bowed low as I passed, their eyes curious but devoid of mockery. The guard pushed open the massive oak door. "The king will see you now, my lady." My throat was desert dry. The king's study was immense. A fire burned low in the hearth, yet the room was bizarrely freezing. When he turned to look at me, the cold hit me like a wall. "Your Majesty, rise," he said, entirely empty of warmth. "Your Majesty," I began, my voice wavering. "I never meant to deceive you." "Deceive me?" he asked, sounding bored.
I do not need to know. The wedding will take place in 3 days. That is all you need to concern yourself with.
"Please, Your Majesty, you must understand the reason I wear it. If you would just let me explain what I am."
I will not be looking. I assume you hide your face because it is severely disfigured or entirely displeasing to look upon.
I winced. If I told him the truth, he would execute me. "You must tell him," my conscience screamed. He paused at the door. "You will be my wife, Aurelia. I will provide for you. But I have no interest in seeing you. Ever. Even if you never wish to see me, others will talk. I would prefer you hear the truth before you feel betrayed."
If you prefer that no one ever sees you, then it shall be so. You will receive a dedicated staff of blind servants.
"I assure you, it is no hassle. I will see you at the cathedral." And then he was gone. I stood alone. This felt like a trap. But then I remembered my father's eyes, the pure, unadulterated hatred. The king looked at me with nothing, just cold indifference. I will choose cold over cruelty every time. The next morning, I was summoned to the council chamber to finalize the marriage contract. I was tended to by gentle, sightless maids who bathed me and brushed my hair without questions. No one had been gentle with me in years. I steadied my breathing, ready to face my father. The room was dominated by a long mahogany table. Valerius sat at the head, cold and imposing. At the far end, refusing to look at me, sat my father, Lord Silas Thorne.
I will never look upon you, neither I nor my court. Is this agreeable?
I must protest. If you knew what monstrosity was beneath that veil.
I was not talking to you, Lord Thorne. I was talking to my future queen.
Yes, it is more than agreeable. Thank you for your immense kindness.
Kindness? A flicker of genuine confusion broke his icy facade. He offered a business transaction, an heir but no shared life, no shared bed. I didn't flinch. To me, his rejection was the ultimate mercy. My father signed as a witness, his expression twisted into a snarl of fury. Exiting the chamber, my sister Genevieve stepped into my path, eyes filled with venom.
When the king sees the witch's mark on your face, he will execute you.
She hissed about the brand on my face, claiming I murdered Julian with magic. I told her the king had sworn an oath. I was no longer her victim.
I didn't kill Julian. I would never use magic to burn a man alive.
You're a monster, she spat. And when the king finds out, he will destroy you. 3 days later, I walked down the aisle, entirely concealed in dark velvet. Valerius waited at the altar, looking like a god carved from glacial ice.
I will never love you. Please understand that.
The moment his fingers closed around mine, I gasped. He was supernaturally cold. The cathedral held its collective breath. Would he lift the veil? I sat on the edge of the massive canopy bed, trembling. Tonight was the consummation. 3 soft knocks echoed. Come in, I managed. Valerius stepped inside. He had discarded his formal jacket, wearing only a white linen shirt. He pulled a strip of black silk from his pocket.
I will wear this, a blindfold, to ensure I do not see you even by accident.
The profound thoughtfulness of the gesture made my throat tight. All right, turn around. I stepped close to him, rising on my toes to tie the silk around his eyes. I blew out the candles. Completed darkness enveloped us. I can smell your anxiety, he murmured, his voice rumbling in the dark. I've never done this before. His large, incredibly cold palms settled on my bare shoulders. You are safe with me, Aurelia. Slowly, his fingers slipped beneath the thin straps of my nightgown, letting the silk pool at my feet.
You may do whatever you like to me.
He was ice, and I was fire. The sensation of his cold skin against my body was intoxicating. When he kissed down my neck, I moaned, "Please, bite me." His mouth moved lower, worshipping my skin with a cold fire that drove me out of my mind. Afterward, his arm held me flush against his chest until he drifted to sleep. In the morning, I gently touched the edge of his blindfold. You really don't mind not seeing me? Valerius smiled. I would like to see you very much, but not if it makes you unhappy. The king had explicitly stated our arrangement was contractual. He only needed an heir. I expected him to visit me once a month, perform his duty, and leave. But Valerius returned the very next evening, and the evening after that. Every night, he would knock on my door, don his blindfold, and take me to bed with a fierce hunger. But he was always freezing. Sometimes I would wake to find him violently shivering. I took to building the fire in my hearth into a blazing inferno just to keep him warm.
Why are you always so cold? Alpha wolves run hot.
It is a family condition. Let us not speak of it.
He sighed about trade negotiations and the southern pacts withholding healing potions.
My ancestors believed witches were dangerous. They claimed a witch cursed our bloodline.
If Valerius knew he was sleeping with a branded witch, he would execute me. To distract myself from the terror, I sought out Lady Vivian's expertise. I wanted Valerius to stay with me, not just for duty, but for pleasure. Armed with advice, I became bolder. I learned exactly where to touch him. I coaxed him into a second, then a third round of lovemaking.
Valerius, I am pregnant.
We are having a child, thank you, Aurelia.
When our son Rowan was finally born, Valerius looked at him with profound love. I began to weep. He has his heir now. He doesn't need me anymore.
You're going to leave me now. You have no reason to stay.
I was a fool. I'm not leaving you. You are everything to me.
I want your love, Valerius. I want you to love me back.
You have it. I love you, Aurelia. I love you more than life itself.
But the moment the confession left his lips, his eyes widened in terror. Frost literally materialized on his skin, spreading across his throat and chest. He convulsed violently, his eyes rolling back in his head. He collapsed onto the stone floor, the curse finally claiming its price. "Help!" I screamed, clutching Valerius's freezing body. "Someone help me! The king is dying!" "It's no use," Valerius whispered. "There is no cure. If we ever truly fall in love, our hearts freeze." "What is happening to you?" I wept. "If you didn't love me, you would live." I chose a veiled bride because I thought I could never fall in love with someone I couldn't see. But I was wrong. What if I gave you a reason to stop loving me? My fingers shook violently as I reached for my veil. I ripped the heavy velvet veil from my head. For the first time, I exposed my face to my husband. I waited for the horror, the disgust, the hatred that would break the curse. I am a fire witch. I am the monster your ancestors warned you about. Hate me, Valerius. Please, hate me and live. Valerius reached up and gently touched the hideous scar on my forehead. How could I ever hate you? You exposed your deepest terror to save my life. I love you infinitely more. But I'm a witch. I might be a murderer. My words were lost in my sobs. Your soul is pure. You are my queen, and I love you. His eyes rolled back. His hand fell from my face with a lifeless thud. The frost rapidly encased his throat. The king of the north was being turned to ice. "Valerius!" I screamed, my voice shattering the silence of the frozen room. But he was gone. Gone into the ice, leaving me alone with my curse. 3 weeks passed. Valerius was in a coma, covered in frost. I sat vigil day and night, baby Rowan nearby. "Bring me a witch," I ordered the council. "A powerful one, today." "Your Majesty, witches are banned from the palace," Elder Gideon protested. "I am the Queen Regent. Bring me a witch, or I will mount your heads on the walls." That afternoon, they brought an earth witch. She examined Valerius's frozen body with grim eyes. "This is a blood curse," she rasped. "Against ice, only pure, unbound fire magic has a chance." "I am a fire witch," I pleaded, "but my magic is bound by this seal." The old witch gasped. You have the eyes of Aurelia Thorne." "Isabel was my grandmother," I said, confused. "She was my twin sister. Your grandfather murdered her to hide the shame." My father lied. He said my magic came from an affair. Magic is hereditary. Your father Silas carries the fire magic in his blood too. Understanding crashed over me. Silas killed Julian with fire magic. He framed me and branded me to hide his own magical lineage. I need the breaking seal. I need to confront my father. I rode for the Thorne estate. I was the queen coming for blood. I kicked the double doors open. Silas looked at me with disgust. "Release my binding seal," I commanded. "I need my magic. I will not unleash a murderous witch upon the world," Silas sneered. "You are the murderer. You burned Julian and framed me. It rid us of a commoner and gave me an excuse to bind you." Genevieve screamed and swung a heavy iron poker at Silas's skull. He crumpled to the floor. Genevieve dropped the poker, sobbing. "Sister, I blamed you for years. I am so sorry." I pulled a rune-carved iron key from his pocket, the binding seal. "Throw him in the dungeon. Genevieve, come to the palace. You're safe." Valerius returned from a border skirmish, gravely wounded. Defying his strict orders to remain hidden, channeling its dark energy directly into his wounds, the act drained her, leaving her weakened and vulnerable, but saved his life. As Valerius regained consciousness, he looked at her with a new, complex expression, a subtle shift in his icy demeanor, suggesting a nascent, fragile trust. I rode back to the northern palace as fast as my horse could carry me. I sprinted up the stairs to the royal bedchamber, the iron seal clutched in my bleeding hand. Valerius was worse. The frost had reached his chin. His heartbeat was so faint it was barely audible. I took the iron seal and pressed it directly against the branded scar on my forehead. Searing, agonizing pain ripped through my skull as the magical lock shattered. Power, raw, wild, and incredibly hot, flooded my veins like a bursting dam. My eyes ignited with glowing golden fire.
Valerius.
I placed both of my hands flat against the thick layer of magical ice covering his chest. I summoned every ounce of love, grief, and fury I possessed, channeling it into pure hellfire. Flames erupted from my palms, roaring around us, but they didn't burn his skin. The room hissed with steam as the ancient curse fought back, sending tendrils up my arms. I pushed harder, screaming as the magical backlash tore at my muscles. Crack! The ice shattered. The frost rapidly melted away, turning to harmless water on his skin. His silver eyes snapped open. He took a massive, shuddering breath as his lungs filled with air. He looked up at me, my face bare and marked, tears streaming down my cheeks.
Aurelia.
You're alive.
6 months later, the northern palace was bathed in warm spring sunlight. I stood in the palace gardens, holding my infant son Rowan, while Genevieve played peekaboo with him. The dark days were over. Silas Thorne was rotting in a cell, stripped of his titles. But the greatest change was the kingdom itself. Following his miraculous recovery, Valerius's first royal decree was the immediate decriminalization of witchcraft. The palace was now open to magic users, and a new academy was being built to train young witches to control their powers. Your Majesty, a royal guard bowed deeply. The king requests your presence at the training grounds. I wore no veil. My face was bare to the world. The cross-shaped scar on my forehead displayed proudly, a symbol of survival, not shame. No one whispered. No one stared with disgust. They bowed with absolute, unquestioning reverence for the Fire Queen who had saved their king. I found Valerius by the armory. He looked more breathtaking than ever, his silver eyes completely free of the cold shadows that used to haunt them. When he saw me, a smile broke across his face that rivaled the sun. He pulled me into his arms, kissing me deeply in front of half his army. I melted against him, feeling the steady, warm, powerful thrum of his uncursed heart. "You look beautiful," he murmured, his thumb tracing the scar on my forehead with endless devotion.
Even with the mark, I teased softly.
"Because of it," he corrected, pressing his lips to the brand, "it is the mark of the woman who walked through fire for me. And you are the king who offered me a crown when the world threw me away," I whispered, looping my arms around his neck. The king who could not love had given me his heart, and the veiled outcast had given him back his life. Together, fire and frost, we were finally perfectly whole.